Phil Beauregard, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Phil Beauregard. I am the CEO of Objective Logistics, and I have some extracurricular activities, I suppose, that I do as well.
Well, we're not doing anything that's going to get you on the police rap sheet.
No.
Not that you're a stranger to that.
No, that was in high school. Yeah. Luckily, I had a lawyer for a father, so no. Despite the fact that I would get
We're going to start this one again. Anyway, hi, I'm here with Phil Beauregard of Objective Logistics. What are Objective Logistics?
Yeah, it's a name that is pretty descriptive, I suppose. It's not, a .ly or anything else like that. But what we do at Objective Logistics is we dig into POS systems in restaurants.
POS is?
POS, it does not mean piece of, as you would know, although some of them are really, really terrible databases. So, our engineers will often use that euphemism or the opposite of that. But they're point of sale systems. So anything that you see, waiters, waitresses, retail salespeople typing your order into.
So a restaurant, you go in, they take your order, they're ringing you up. Anything having to do with that is going off of paper and into actual numbers.
Exactly. It's for order processing. It's for inventory management. They're kind of like ERP systems, enterprise resource planning, in restaurants. But they just house all this data, and what we do with that data is that we rank all of the service people, the front of house people.
Objectively, I suppose.
Objectively, that's right, with all sorts of great heuristics algorithms and statistics. And in doing so, we rank them based on their performance.
So you're Moneyball for restaurants.
For lack of a better term, yeah. I mean, we've been slapped with the big data, gamification, and Moneyball terms. But when we first came out with the concept, it was really just microeconomics. It was game theory. It was Nash. It was, theories of elimination and deadweight loss.
The answer is to get your best people on the best shifts at the best time to make the most money.
What we'll always say is that's correct, and also give the customers the best experience. So we have customer satisfaction proxies in our algorithms that will grade people on their ability to make repeat customers come in. What we'll always say is we don't want, for the Moneyball aspect, you don't want David Ortiz batting ninth in your lineup necessarily. So you want to put him in the 3 spot where he's going to hit.
Or you don't want Derek Jeter singing the national anthem and.
I'm from Boston, or around the area, so I don't really want Derek Jeter to get much of anything, to tell you the truth. Besides staying retired and playing with his website and his morning to go kids for his.
Or
ladies.
Pavarotti playing shortstop. That'd be tough given the fact that he's been deceased. But
yeah, he also seems supremely immobile. More so now that he's deceased.
More than Ortiz?
I think Pavarotti had a couple pounds on Ortiz, but.
Okay, so you've got a wonderful startup. You've been going for a while. But what I want to talk to you about is the Boston ecosystem. And it seems like all roads lead to Rome. All of my investments somehow lead back to Phil Beauregard. You're also an angel investor.
I'm sorry for that, by the way. We'll see how that turns out. Hopefully, in 10 years, you're not going to be coming back and making me pay for that. No, but yeah, I've done some angel investments into very small. I'm not a whale, so to speak. But I think that I can provide value along with a check. And the ones that I've done, I really bet on founders when it comes down to it. People that are run through walls and people that I think are a certain phenotype of individual that is attractive to me as an entrepreneur. And so the investments that I've done are the Tap Lab, Star Street, which has exited, Take the Interview, Robin, Command IQ, and Rekindle. And
Sure.
I also did Buy Side FX.
Yeah.
Which.
All right, that's why I'm paying you the 4 beers, as I'm slowly working out of that debt.
Yeah.
And if truth be told, I am an investor in those last 4, Take the Interview, Robin, Command IQ, and Rekindle are all were sourced to me by Phil, as well as I'm also in Objective Logistics. So no bias here, but also you act as advisors to some people. I forget, was it Drizzly or who?
No. So on the bar, I also have like Race Venue. There are a couple.
Mm-hmm.
There are about 6 different companies that I advise, and I also like to. Truthfully, those are the only times that I've become an official advisor is when people are literally like, here are shares in my company, and I will sit there and say, am I actually helpful to them? Robin is another company that I advise that they ask me to. Unless I'm providing value, I don't really want to get into that, and usually it's just the founder saying, here, take this, And as long as I don't think it's egregious and I'm providing value, I'll do so. But there are other ones that there are a ton of companies that I meet with all the time that are potential angel investments that, are good entrepreneurs and people that maybe I'm not liquid enough to put money into, but I want to introduce to other people, especially at the end of the year when Christmas season was coming up and Hanukkah season and everything else. But yeah, for some reason I get to see a lot of companies. And
well, there's no secret to that, because you, for example, were the guiding force and one of the leading lights on Unpitch. You want to tell us a story about how Unpitch came to being? I believe it came off of a classic Beauregardian rant.
The Unpitch thing is kind of came from a place that was a little bit more fiery and less screwing around.
Someone who may have been taking advantage of poor young entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so, something that kind of really, in the words of Family Guy, really grinds my gears is when I see people getting taken advantage of, and ascribing that to the life of an entrepreneur when you're bootstrapping or you're 60 grand in debt, and, you're living in your parents' basement. I mean, that's something that I can really relate to, because I lived in my parents' basement when I was 26 years old, because I was 60 grand in debt that I was plowing into Objective Logistics, and after my investment banking career, I used my severance from there to go and put it into Objective Logistics. And it's a nice basement, but at the age of 26, it's definitely not the road extremely traveled, so to speak, to go out. Especially back when I did it, in 2008.
Well, let's cut to the chase. There was a company that was going out on a pay-to-play or pay-to-pitch basis, trying to charge
for a very long time.
Trying to charge entrepreneurs to line up interviews, sometimes claiming connections that didn't exist, and you said, stop, no entrepreneur should have to pay for access to investors.
Yeah, and luckily I had a good podium, right? I had built up not only just kind of like people that actually listen to me and think some things that I say are valuable once in a while, more often not, but also was writing for Pando Daily once in a while. Mm-hmm. I have a very good relationship with Adam Pennenberg over there, who was over there. So I saw that this company continued to, and I got an email back when I was raising money for Objective Logistics, continuing to say, come to our conference, literally they would bullet point out 100 investors. And what I didn't realize back then was that there are 100 investors, and forgive me for the people that are actually real, but which is probably 4 or 5 dotted in there, but literally 95 out of 100 investors, if you look at the emails to this day that they're still sending out, that they're holding their conferences to meet and greet with entrepreneurs, it's 95 fake VCs that almost don't even exist. It's like,
Or they use names like Alex Finkelstein at Spark, who had no knowledge
got really
of
up in arms. Yeah, so I really took to this thing. So the concept behind their thing is, let's charge entrepreneurs between $400 and $2,500 to come to this conference and pitch investors. So, and the best investors around, that's their theory. So they're charging all this money, and it's just this sycophant little shit weasel organization.
Those are technical terms, right?
Yeah, little shit weasel. That is just kind of sucking off the lifeblood of entrepreneurs, and also charging people that don't have a dime in their pocket that are trying to raise money. And I went out and I got really up in arms about it, because I kept seeing it, and I said, somebody has to say something about this. Jason Calacanis had already done something 2 years before.
Angel Forum, right?
Yeah, and he had the land base at him just a little bit, and they kept coming up.
That was a different group. That was the Keiretsu group, of which there's still a prominent branch in Boston.
Yeah, they're still around. I mean, I would smite them all if I could, but they would probably end up in legal trouble.
Their line is, we charge these $400 as a bozo filter and we use so much time preparing them, but you've got a different alternative.
Yeah, so Unpitch was based off of that. It was also based off of, very much so kind of like the Unconference and, having casual conversations to take the stress out of the room. Let's get people that are not necessarily exposed in the ecosystem out and meeting people that they wouldn't have access to regularly. So we're not necessarily talking about Techstars folks, people that have been through accelerators. We're talking about the people in New Bedford, Massachusetts. We're talking about the people in, Fargo that are building cool companies, at the speed of web, that have never had access to the Jeff Fagnans and Rich Miners and Ty Dankos of the world, really, when it came down to it, to the Andy Palmers, Dharmesh, Joe Caruso, so on and so forth. the great investors here in Boston. And is there any way that we can create a forum there where we're bringing these people that are underexposed, not charging them anything, and actually the investors are paying for lunch,
right.
and they're sitting down and they're not talking under the auspice of, hey, this is a pitch, hey, I'm raising money. It's more along the lines of, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about what we're working on, and forming those relationships in that intimate setting?
Yeah, it'll be interesting later where I don't know if you've kept track somehow of, if there's one good thing that came out of that as a deal, that's wonderful. But it's really the idea of getting people intertwined and just starting the ball rolling.
Well, it is, but and I think that's a positive externality. We've only been done it 3 times, and by we I mean New England Venture Capital is really taking the lead role in this is their specialty. CA Webb and Kid George, and organizing these things. I mean, that's not really my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse in the beginning was like,
your job is shaking down the guys with $100 or else.
No, all the investors, hey, can you come to this please, using a little bit of that, social capital, and showing them that this is something cool to do, and then, and getting the word out. But there actually have been 3 companies that have been funded directly because
of it.
So.
Plus, I'm thinking of after the Boston Marathon bombing, you put together a fund, right?
Yeah, that was wild. That took on a life of its own.
So just give background. There were all these victims.
Everybody's So
where do you get money?
We're all sitting in the office, and every company was affected by this, right? You heard about the marathon bombings. Everybody's watching it like it was almost like 9/11. Like you're glued to the TV, thinking, how did this happen? Will it happen again? And I was in the office, and of course on Twitter once again, I'm writing, does anybody want to do a blood drive or something? Because people are talking about it, and everybody really mobilized around that. Jeremy Weiscott was somebody that originally from Terrible Labs was somebody that did it with me. And we realized, I called the Red Cross, and I was like, oh shit, it's 4 p.m. and we have, 300 people that have said that they want to do something like this. So I called the Red Cross and I said, oh, this is actually going to take some work on my part. Damn it, I'm in the middle of doing something else. But I called the Red Cross and they said, we're actually booked at this point for 6 months out. And I said, well, we have all of this mobilization from the startup ecosystem right now, the tech ecosystem, the Steve Conine and Neeraj Shah, and all these different people that are saying, how can we help? So we decided to say, why don't we create a fund for the victims, directly for the victims? Let's be entrepreneurs and not, with all due respect to the Red Cross, the other organizations that...
They have some bureaucracy that they go through.
That pay high salaries. Let's take a bunch of money in and give it directly to the victims and the victim's family, and let's control that. And people jumped on, and our original target goal, I think, was somewhere $10,000 or $20,000. I think it was 10. And it blew through that in a matter of about 3 minutes or so. So we kept upping it, and at the end of the day, it ended up just amassing. Jeff Fagnan was a great help with Tug, running it through their 501c3 because we didn't have a charity to run it through. It got a ton of press, and it ended up raising more than $300,000 in the matter of 3-4 days.
And again, coalesced the community, and I don't know that that's unique to Boston, but it's certainly not the standard. I remember hearing someone who had been worked in New York, they worked in San Francisco, worked in other places, said all these other places are networks, but Boston appears to be a community.
There's an interesting book called Where Good Ideas Come From, and it just kind of talks about networks, and it's one of those business books, but it's actually well written, and it just talks about ecosystems and essentially these coral reefs and everything else. And it kind of hit a stride with me because I'm a non-practicing scuba diver as of late, because it's been a while since I've been on a vacation. But what's really, really cool about Boston, and I've been to a couple different ecosystems. I haven't worked there for years or anything, but what's really cool about Boston is everybody's so accessible, and everybody really seems like they want to help each other from a CEO and founder and cohort perspective. And what I mean by that is that if you're a VP of marketing, or you're a VP of biz dev, or you're an operations person, or you're an angel investor, or you're a CEO, you have a very, very strong group of people that want to help you out at all times, and they're willing to help you out. I haven't seen that anywhere else, as far as the density of it goes. There's a quick synapse between the axons and the neurons here, and when it comes down to it, it has everything to do with, it's a phone call away and somebody's willing to go out of their way to help you and kind of pitch in where they can, or be a shoulder to cry on, or say, I went through that as well, here's my advice. Take it for better or for worse, hopefully most mentors will say. or cohorts and colleagues. But when I have a rough day, I can obviously call Matt Grace, my co-founder, and I do all the time at Objective Logistics, and he's over at Rekindle now. But Fred Schulmover has been fantastic from Insight Squared for me. Matt Bellows is another person that has been absolutely, just crucial.
From Yesware.
From Yesware. These are people, Pat Kinsel, from Spindle, he's now over at Polaris, Aaron White at Venrock. These are all guys that I can literally make a phone call to no matter what it is. I stub my toe, or oh shit, my company's going off the cliff and I can't turn off my afterburner.
Mm-hmm. Just as an example, I know when Buy-Side FX was starting up, I was trying to figure out my pitch, and I wanted to talk to you, and in 2 seconds you had gotten together Tuan. We was at Tuan's house, or maybe Tuan was in there, but you had Sravis Shriv.
Shrav's another one.
From Convey.
Again, shame on me for sorry, Shrav. Shrav's another one that's from Convey. Yeah, we try to help, and if we can help, I think the most important thing is to be intellectually honest about where you're at, and what I mean by that is give advice if somebody's asking about stuff that you know about or you've been through in the past couple of years.
So if you were just coming to Boston, you're a new entrepreneur, how are some of the ways you would go out to get connected?
I think it really starts with Rob Go wrote a really, really good Hitchhiker's Guide to the Boston ecosystem, so to speak.
It's no longer called that on the title, but if you Google Rob Go Hitchhiker's Guide,
ROB space Geo, who is just the nicest human being and so unbelievably smart. He's a partner over at Nextview Ventures. Lee Howard has been a backer of ours as well, and Lee is I'd go to war for him along with Jeff and Rich and Chris Lynch as well. Who gets bad rap sometimes.
Well, I think Chris, like you, is not afraid of voicing a contrary opinion.
I think we can be termed a little bit bellicose at times, and you can imagine what my relationship would be. I remember when I first heard about Chris Lynch, Jeff Fagnan said, I think it was Jeff or it was Dustin Dolganow, who's over at Maiden Lane now, that was at Atlas, said, we can't put you and Chris Lynch in a room together. It's like fire and gasoline. We don't know what the hell's going to happen. You're going to burn the house down. So needless to say, Chris is an amazing guy, and I want to make sure this gets in there. Chris is a guy you can go to. Chris is a guy that believes in family and honor, and somebody that'll really, really, go to swing for the fences with
you. And he tells it straight.
Yeah, he certainly tells it straight, which is highly underrated sometimes, because you don't want. Life is full of maybes. Life is full of keep me updated, and life is full of that sounds great, let's do lunch. Like, in the words of a YouTube video that I've seen recently, ain't nobody got time for that, So
I must be missing up on my YouTube videos.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah. So Rob Go, going back to the ecosystem, if you're new to Boston, I would definitely look at Rob Go's from Nextview's take on how to get integrated and all the different resources that are out there. And I mean, you literally cannot find a better Candyland map to how to navigate around here.
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking about, even the genesis of companies, I forget what the group was called. It was named after one of those streets on, like Gloucester, Essex, by Hancock. But there was a group of young professionals who used to meet at a bar. Victoria's Song was in it.
Dart, is it?
Dart, yeah, Dart Boston.
Yeah, that was Court Johnson, I think.
Yeah, Court Johnson, who's now a VC. And
Court Johnson has crossed over to the dark side, although he's bright smile, dark side, Court. Yeah. He's over at Alice Venture now.
But that's the Crashlytics came about because both Jeff and Wayne were invited to this young entrepreneurs hanging in Boston.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That story was not one that I was privy to. I heard. I
was there that night and I didn't realize that there was magic happening. I just
No, I mean Jeff Seibert is somebody that I just absolutely just have the most profound respect for. They're both really special talents. Crashlytics is a great story for Boston. I'm not really of the ilk that says, they didn't go public or anything else along those lines. That was a great result for a lot of people and really did, positive things for the ecosystem. And Wayne and Jeff, what they built, they deserve a tremendous amount of kudos for that. And especially now that Wayne is going into investing and making it wane right, left, and sideways, and taking
wane.
Pictures on mountains and everything else. I don't know what wane.
Oh, speaking of pictures of mountains, that's why I had originally heard of Objective Logistics, and you pitched me, and I instantly sort of dissed it because of a couple of reasons, but I didn't do restaurant business. It wasn't explained to me correctly. And then I saw your wonderful We Are Here map of Everest, and you had raised money, and so many people think that once you raise money, that's the goal. And do you want to explain that little graphic you did?
Yeah, I wanted everybody to...
What was the graphic?
So the graphic was Mount Everest, like literally a kind of a cartoon map of Mount Everest that, it looked like when you go to Killington or Attitash or Sunday River or anywhere else where the ski mountain. And I had put little arrows because I had just read Into the Mist or something like that. Or
base camp and...
So I put red arrows at the different base camps, and I just said, everybody's very high on this. We raise money from Atlas Venture, Next View, Great Angels, and also we raised money from this new firm that was doing investments in town called Google Ventures.
Yeah.
And everybody, immediately just latched onto that. And these were heady times as entrepreneurs, And I just said,
you raised money, we won, it's over.
Yeah, no.
Pop open the crystal.
It felt great, make no mistake, and it was a great thing. But I had a Miller Lite as opposed to Cristal, and or not a Miller Lite, hopefully Coors Light or something. I don't even know what I drank. But yeah, I said we're at base camp. We're literally at base camp.
We are here.
We are here. Yeah, I put a big X on it. I said we are here, and we have
only 17,000 vertical feet to go.
Yeah, we have all the picks and shovels, but the hard part is really ahead. And it was easy for me to say then, but now I realize kind of how pressing it is after the better part of 3 years of doing it.
Well, the side story, and I don't know this, but I think I've heard it. So you were out there in the parents' basement slogging it out in New Bedford.
It's a nice basement. I want to make absolutely sure you finish everything else.
We're slogging it out, and I'm sure you knocked on a lot of doors and you were getting a lot of no's everywhere like that. And it was just you went to a conference. Right?
I didn't get that many no's. No, I got a lot of no's because I raised my friends, family, and fools around, so to speak. Mm-hmm. From people that were from around the New Bedford area. And if anybody knows anything about New Bedford, it's not necessarily the most affluent towns in the world.
Do they all talk in pirate there?
Pirate?
Arr, bitty.
Yeah, it's not the Caribbean. It's more like a perfect storm,
Okay.
But it's a great city. It's where I'm from. It's home, and that's that.
But then you went shishi on us.
Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm just extremely shishi as it is.
We get the full wardrobe here.
Yeah. It's my bouffant, my coif. So so Scott Kirzner wrote an article about us, and Scott Kirzner was literally one of the first people that I formed a relationship with in Boston, for better or for worse. No, Scott's great, and he's one of the hosts of the Nantucket conference, and he invited me, and I said, hey, I actually looked at the list of investors there and everything else, and said, this actually looks pretty cool. So I went to the Nantucket conference, and that's just where the whirlwind of action started.
But that's a great story. So, what is a press person, but they're connectors. In this case, putting on this conference, and that led to Objective Logistics meeting these guys.
It was unreal. We literally met everybody that had first funded us. So I met Fred Destin, I had spoken once to Dustin Dolgenow before, and Dustin was very interested in the company, but he was the only person that we had talked to. Met Seth Prebach, who had introduced us to Rich Miner, who said, you guys...
Of Level Up at that point, Scavenger.
Yeah,
right.
And he said, you guys, he flew in like a helicopter or something in his orange gear. I was like, who is this alien human being? And he's just so smart. And, we met, and we were intellectually compatible, and he said, you got to meet Rich Miner. So it was a matter of a couple months later that we got funded, and we had multiple term sheets, and, they finally said, who the hell are these guys? It was kind of new for them, I suppose. So... they had no idea that we even existed. And to find all those relationships during that weekend, I still have a lot of friends to this day from there. Matt Lozon, Jeremy Levine from Star Street. It was cool, and there was a lot of lasting effects that happened from that. So
again, I think the answer for everybody is if you got to get around, you gotta meet, you gotta go, you gotta attend, you gotta show up. You can always have the idea that you're running it out of a basement, But unless you're meeting people, you're not going to have the leads to collaborators, to colleagues, to funders, to customers. You got to go out and socialize.
Especially in the beginning. I mean, as you get a little bit further along, you really have to pick and choose your spots because you really do become busy with operating a company, right? So nowadays, few and far between as far as events go, ones that I really try to cherry pick. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very important that you go to the right places and you kind of, find the people, the really high quality stuff. You don't need to be going to every event every night and start.
Well, it's easy for me because I go to bed at 8:30.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I did not. I was unaware of that, and I mean, we can stay away from your nocturnal habits during this conversation. Everything would be all right. Sometimes, there's some intimacy is too intimate.
I think this is getting edited there. It's okay.
So, yeah, it's just very important. I think it's very important to get out there, to talk to different people, especially when you're first starting, to get to know people, because these are connections that will be lasting forever, and it's kind of a cliche, but it's true.
Talk to me about communicating with investors. How much do you feel, how close are you to various people? Obviously, some people are more involved than others. You have any thoughts on how you do it?
Yeah, so what I like to do at both companies is I like to send to my immediate investors, my VCs and my partners,
The majors.
The majors, yeah. The powers that be. I like to send a weekly email. I call it a flash. And it essentially just gives an update across the entire business. Short, consumable, snackable, something that they can read quickly.
Being Objective Logistics, is this full of data and dashboards?
Yeah, yep. So, I mean, I'll use, Fred Schillmore's company, Insight Squared, provides us with a tremendous tool that we can use through Salesforce as well to talk about our deal volume, our leads, which ones we've closed. We can really drill down into those metrics as a post-Series A company. In addition to that, we'll talk about technology advancements. Matt will take the product and technology. And Melissa nowadays will take that section and say what we've done in the past couple of weeks, so on and so forth, what we're building. And then there'll be partnerships and things that we find that are germane to the to what they want to know.
But the answer is no surprises.
Never any surprises. And the other thing is that I probably communicate with my investors far more haphazardly and often than they would want. And what I mean by that is that I'm a spur of the moment guy, so I'll call Rich, I'll call Jeff, and I'll call Chris, I'll call Lee, when I just think of it, and I'm sure it drives them absolutely crazy because they have assistants for a reason. They're very busy guys, but they all get back to me right away. So I've been very lucky as far as responsiveness goes, and I don't necessarily think that that's because, because it's that. I'm sure it is their normal habit, and because they love me so much. I think it's more because they know how annoying I'll be if they don't answer. So.
All right. Thank you, Phil.
No worries. Thanks for having me.